Hello everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of WolfQuest, because today we are here to choose the heirs to Katari and Tarrell. Now you can see Katari here, and this is just what she looks like. I don't think I've ever really shown you guys her profile 360 rotation view, but this is what she looks like from the profile selector, or the wolf selector screen. But we actually have all of her puppies here as well, and we'll be going through them because today I will be putting up a poll where you guys can vote and choose her heir. So first on the list, and also just to note, each of Katari's heirs, potential heirs, will have a special ability and a special challenge, and this will play out whether we follow them as the heir or whether we follow them in a streamed side story like we did with Lukon. So Lukon is actually the only one of her children who does not have a challenge because he actually left the WolfQuest world entirely. He left Yellowstone and went to the world of Wolf. But anyway, let's get started on looking through her heirs. I believe there are 13 of them, and unfortunately I don't have Tarrell to show you here because Tarrell is a game-generated mate, and so he doesn't have his own wolf profile. But if you'll recall, he was, I'll just go to the create a new wolf. You know, why not just make Tarrell real fast so we can remember him? So he is male. I don't really know what his stats were, but I know he had this coat. A little bit, was it a little darker? It wasn't super light. It was probably right about here. I don't remember what howl he had. I'm just going to leave it on the default one, and I think he was a little bit faster than he was strong. He had quite a bit of stamina though. So we're just going to go ahead, we'll put him at 40, 50, 60 like this, because I really don't know what his stats are. I think the generated mates have different stats anyway. So let's go ahead, and it may actually bring us to choosing a game, or to doing a game in Amethyst Mountain with him, but this is what Tarrell looks like, so we'll go ahead and pick... Oh. Apparently I actually have a wolf called Tarrell. Did I actually make... I may have made him at one point. Alright, so we won't... That's kind of just what he looks like. But anyway, I'll go in and remake him. I may have actually made a previous version of him at one point, so I'll deal with that later on, but I will show him to you at some point. But first up, we have Neo. Now, Neo is from Katari's first litter, Katari and Tarrell. It's both their litter, but I'm used to saying Katari because she's the player wolf, but Tarrell is definitely just as important. So, Katari and Tarrell's first litter, Neo is one of the puppies. She tends to be a very calm and collected wolf. She's also very observant. She has a very special strength because she was the second puppy that Tarrell actually carried across that time when he brought all 4 puppies over across the river on his own. Now, because of that, she watched him carefully as he brought Cassidy over before her, and as he brought the other 2, Apollo and Lukon, across after her. So she observed very, very carefully and saw what he did, and so she is very good with the water. Now, if Neo ever loses a puppy to drowning, she can actually save before she crosses the river. And if a puppy dies during the crossing as a result of drowning, she can reload that save and say that it was her knowledge of the river that she used to save the puppy. Now, she can only do this once, so if she lost 2 puppies to drowning, she'd only be able to load the save and save one of them. But she can do it 1 time per litter. However, she can't use this for any other predator. And her challenge is that, because she is so dependent on the water and so good with the river, she has to live at either the Bison Peak Cutoff Den or the special den, which is over by the creek. I think its technical name is the East Creek Den. Now, she has to live at one of those 2 dens because she has to cross the water twice there. So that is Neo, and as you can see, she's, I'll go ahead, I'll hit modify so you can see her stats. She has 30 strength, 70 stamina, and 50 speed, so she's decently fast, but not super fast. She has 70 stamina and 30 strength. Is it going to let us show her howl type? Here. If we doglet. So that is what Neo's howl sounds like. I think she just has the normal body, yeah, she doesn't have any special things for her body. And as you can see, she has a scar. So she had a run-in with something, maybe, I don't know if it would be a bear, excuse me, or what, but she had a little run-in with something at one point and got a scar across her face. So, but she looks a lot like her mom. She has a very similar coat. And so that, oops, no, I want to go back here. That is what Neo looks like. Here she is. So next up we have Apollo, who is Neo's big brother, not in age, but in size, definitely. Now, Apollo is a very strong wolf, and as you can see, he has a few scars of his own. He's had a couple of run-ins and stuff, something or another too. I don't know exactly what. He's very golden in color. He has a notched ear. He actually has a scar on his forehead. And Apollo is very headstrong and reckless, and he hates to give up, and he tends to be a little bit brash. Now, Apollo did not take kindly, because if you remember, each of these wolves stayed with us for a year after their litter. So even though we couldn't see them, they were helping raise the next year's puppies. And Apollo was there when Kaya was attacked at the den, and he did not take kindly to that, and he has held a grudge against the stranger wolves for quite some time. So his challenge is that he has to stay at the Bison Peak Cutoff Den in order to challenge the stranger wolves, because they were at the special den when this occurred. Apollo is going to take it one step further and go even closer to them. This does put his puppies at more risk of a stranger wolf attack, but his strength is that he is both strong and cunning. Apollo is a little bit of a daredevil, so he's likely to visit the cattle ranch. Now, if he gets shot at the cattle ranch, he can actually evade death and say it was a non-fatal shooting and he managed to escape once per litter. So if he gets shot at the cattle ranch, he can actually say he managed to limp away and escape and nurse his wounds for a while and survive the injury. If it happens again, then that's it. If it happens again twice in one litter. So this makes the cattle ranch a little bit less dangerous for him, and because he'll be at the Bison Peak Cutoff Den, it's not that far away. So that is his strength. He's a very strong wolf. He has 80% strength, 50% stamina, but he does have very low speed. So hunting might be a struggle for him because elk tend to be pretty fast. However, once he does get a bite in on that elk is going down pretty fast. This is his howl type. So you can hear it's a lot like his mom. You can also see where he got clawed across the face there, probably by a bear or something, and it got his ear and it got his face a little bit. He has the torn ear in the body type. So that is Apollo. You can see a scar pretty clearly in that this picture. So we go back. There's Apollo. If we go on from there, I'm going to skip ahead to some of these and stick with the first litter first. So here is Lukon. And for some reason it got a little bit messed up. So I want to show the full body preview. So here's Lukon. He's a pretty gray wolf. Looks a lot like his dad. Both Apollo and Neo kind of took that more after their mom. And we have actually already seen him because we played as him once. So he's very light in color, even more light in coloration than his dad was. And here, let's just go ahead, if we go modify, we can look at his stats. So he has the normal body type. This is his howl. We gotta toggle it. And he has 40 strength, 55 speed, or stamina, and 55 speed. It should be pretty balanced, but I think what this is like actually 54.9 or something, which is why it's showing up as 55 and 56. So roughly 55 and 55. And his coat is very light in color, not too much darkened, and it's pretty much in the middle, not tinted either red or brown. So that's Lukon, but Lukon is actually not an option as an heir because he moved on to the world of wolf. Now, we're going to go back. I probably need to move a little fast. This is getting kind of long. We have a lot of wolves to go through. We'll go ahead, go back. There's Lukon, and the last wolf from that litter is Cassidy, and I did spell her name a little bit differently because the game didn't like the original spelling of it for whatever reason, but this is Cassidy. She looks a lot like her dad, very gray. She actually has, I think, is that a floppy? I think that's a bent ear. and very gray in color. She actually has her dad's green eyes, which is pretty uncommon in a wolf. So if we go ahead and hit modify, you can see she's very light in coloration, a little bit brown tinted. She has very low strength, but she's very, very fast. And she actually has her mom's howl, I believe. Yeah, so that is Katari's howl. So she took after her mom in that way, but you can definitely see a lot of her dad in her. And she has a bent ear, whether that's from some injury or it just didn't quite form right when she was a puppy. She has a little bit of a bent ear. So that's Cassidy. Cassidy is very energetic and outgoing, but she's a little bit reckless, sort of like Apollo. She and Apollo were kind of the troublemakers of their litter. She doesn't always look before she leaps, and she, like Apollo, hates to back down. So she must confront every stranger wolf she encounters in Amethyst Mountain, and she can't give in unless the next blow would prove fatal. That could get pretty dangerous, seeing as she isn't a very strong wolf. But, and she also must confront the Southern Slough Creek pack at least once on her way to the rendezvous site. So the Amethyst Mountain challenge wouldn't last that long, because we're usually only in Amethyst Mountain for a couple of episodes anyway, because all you really do there is find a mate and earn a little bit of experience points to be able to name your puppies. So, but in addition to that, because she was also there when Kaya was attacked, she has to go and confront that pack at least once every year on her way to the rendezvous site by bringing her surviving puppies and her mate to the borders of the pack territory and growling back at the stranger wolves. So she kind of has to issue them a challenge and remind them that she hasn't forgotten or even probably forgiven them for their attack on Kaya, her little sister. However, her strength is that she's very, very good at driving away cougars, because right away, Cassidy was attacked by a cougar and Katari managed to drive it off. Well, Cassidy paid attention to that, and she has gained some experience with cougars. If she loses a puppy to a cougar attack, she may reload the most recent save or autosave in order to revive the puppy, and say that her expertise with cougars made her able to chase it off just in time. However, she can only do this once per litter, and if a puppy dies to anything other than a cougar attack, she can't do anything to stop it. So that is Cassidy for you, and that concludes Katari's first litter, and we'll be now moving on to her second litter. We'll go back, and the first puppy we have, where is she, is Ashy. Now, Ashy and Kaya were quite close. Kaya was the one who was attacked by a stranger wolf. Now, you can see Ashy has a lot of her mom in her, but also quite a bit of her dad, because she does have a more grayish coat. It's just has a little bit more of a red hue to it. She has fairly neutral abilities, a little bit more stamina than she has speed or strength, and she has the normal howl type. So that's just the default WolfQuest howl. Now, Ashy was actually, much like her mother, captured by researchers and has a radio collar. So she will also be followed around by that plane, and that's kind of her life is the one the researchers are following after they ended up stopping following her mother Katari as Katari got older. So she will be kind of carrying on the legacy of the plane. Now, Ashy is pretty bold, but she's also thoughtful. She's very courageous, but she also has a very caring side. She is rigidly traditional, and so she has to stay at the special den for all 4 litters, because that's where she was born, and that's the route she knows the best. And she saw, even though she did see Kaya get attacked at that den, she saw a lot more trouble when Katari and Tarrell tried to move up to the Saddle Meadows den. They had numerous stranger wolf attacks, numerous more predators, and Ashy attributed it to that den. She is very traditional and thinks she must stay only at the special den, because that was, even though Kaya did get attacked, the den she knows to be the safest, at least in her mind. However, her strength is that she is very quick to action and very bold, because the reason Kaya actually survived that stranger wolf attack, we're saying, is that Ashy saw what was happening, darted in, and gave that stranger wolf a little nip on the nose, startling it just long enough for Katari to get there and rescue Kaya. So that is a lot of her boldness playing out, and because of Kaya being attacked and her watching Rowan get attacked at the other den, Ashy knows a lot about stranger wolves. If she loses a puppy to a stranger wolf attack, she can reload the most recent save or autosave once per litter. So a lot like Cassidy's ability, but with stranger wolves. Again, if she loses a puppy to anything other than a stranger wolf, that's it. The puppy's dead. There's no way we can say that Ashy's expertise rescued it. So that is Ashy. And let's move on. Let's go back and look at her little sister Kaya. Now Kaya is her litter mate. Kaya is a very small and skittish wolf. I'll let you get a little bit of a look at her. She kind of inherited from both her mama and her dad. She's pretty gray like her father, but you can also see a lot of the brown in her from her mother. And you can see she actually has a little bent ear and a scar on her face from when the stranger wolf tried to grab her. So let's take a look at her. She is not that strong. She has a little bit of stamina, but she's extremely fast. This is her howl. So it's a little bit more of a timid howl. She has the bent ear, again, from where the stranger wolf came after her, and she has kind of, again, a not super tinted coat. Now, Kaya tends to be very skittish and very shy, but she's also quite smart. She always has to use the Aspen Heights den because the stranger wolves from the South Pack attacked her at the special den, and the Bison Peak Cutoff den is even closer to them than that den. And the Northern Pack attacked her little brother Rowan at the Saddle Meadows den. So Kaya sees the only other option as the Aspen Heights den and sees it as the only safe place to raise her puppies. She's too afraid to go anywhere else because she really does fear the stranger wolves. However, her strength is that because she's so small, she's not all that strong, and she's quite shy, she's had to get really cunning to survive. So if one of her puppies is dealt a fatal blow on the journey to the summer hunting grounds, not during any of the other missions, she can reload the most recent save or autosave once per litter to revive them. Now, this doesn't apply to the Defend Your Den mission, this doesn't apply to the Train Your Pups mission, this doesn't apply to the Grow Your Pups mission, it only applies to the final journey. But, no matter how that puppy dies in the final journey, Kaya can still use her expertise to revive it because she's gained a lot of experience overall. So that's a pretty powerful ability, but she also has her drawbacks in that the Aspen Heights den is quite far away, and so it tends to be a pretty dangerous journey, as we just saw. So that is Kaya, and I went over her abilities and all that. We saw her bent ear, so we'll go ahead, we'll go back. I'll toggle back out of this. And our next puppy is actually Rico. Rico is Kaya's and Ashy's litter mate. And he's pretty playful. He's also a little bit greedy. He's kind of darker in coloration. You can see he inherited a lot of his mom's colors, though. He tends to be brown, but it's a much darker brown. And he does have a little bit of his dad's because you can see some gray in there too. So I'll go ahead. You can see he's a lot darker. He's got a little bit of a reddish tint. And he's pretty strong. You can see he actually has a scar on his face as well. And he has lower stamina and speed, and this is his howl. Kind of reminiscent of his mom's again, and he has a notched ear from some fight or something. He's playful, but he's also a little bit gluttonous. He's not always the most serious wolf, and he's actually sickly. And that's his challenge. He has some sort of illness, possibly parasites, that keeps him from being able to retain nutrition. And so over the winter, he can't fill his health higher than 75%. Now, if we get a little bit over 75%, I'm not going to make a huge deal out of it, but we're going to try and keep his health as near we can to 75%. We can't really fill it past that, which could prove a challenge when he goes to hunt elk. And once spring comes, he can only refill the puppy food bar once it completely runs out. So if there's any amount of food left in the puppy food bar, he can't go to refill it. That could be a pretty serious challenge. But his strength is that he can revive one pup that dies per litter by keeping the pack affinity high. Doesn't matter what the mission is, doesn't matter how the puppy dies, if his pack affinity is over 75%, he can reload the most recent save or autosave, because his family bond is strong enough for him to be able to see the danger and get there in time to save the puppy. But he can only do this once per litter, and if his pack affinity is lower than 75% when a puppy dies, he's not allowed to revive it. Again, I don't think there's any way to check exactly how high your pack affinity is, but we'll be estimating as close as we can if we play as Rico at any point here. So that's Rico, and finally, from the second litter, we're going to go back. I'll toggle it so we can actually see the wolf, and where is he? Finally, we have Kanto. Now, Kanto is a very golden colored wolf. You can see he does have a notched ear. He has very, very light golden coloration that seems to probably come from his mom's side, but possibly from some ancestor as well, because he's certainly not as dark as Katari was. He's a lot more golden in color. He does have a torn ear. No scars or anything. He has a lot of stamina, fair amount of strength, but not that much speed. And let me play his howl. So you can see he has the gold coat. He's a little bit darker on the tint slider down here, and he's pretty mid-ranged when it comes to the red and brown coloration. He's bold and a little bit goofy, but he tends to get into trouble. He's also very unlucky, and that is his challenge. Kanto must always play on one difficulty harder, so instead of the normal, challenging, pretty easy, arduous, bring it on progression, Kanto will have arduous, challenging, bring it on. So that is a pretty serious challenge, but he has a pretty good bonus as well. In his strength is that he's very dependent on his family. So if he manages to keep all 4 puppies alive in one litter, he is granted for the next litter the chance to reload a save or autosave for any puppy that dies, no matter what, no matter how. If a puppy dies in the next litter and he managed to get all 4 puppies safely to the summer hunting grounds in the previous litter, then he can reload a save to bring back that puppy. But if he gets only 3 puppies the first time, then he doesn't get that ability. Now, so if he revives a puppy and that puppy survives because of the revival, then he can still bring that puppy to the summer hunting grounds, and it will still count for all 4 if all 4 survive, even if he did use his previous revival. The revivals also don't stack, so he can have a maximum of 1 per litter. So if he gets 2 litters safely to the summer hunting grounds without using any revivals, he'll still only have 1 for the 3rd. This also means that he can't do that on his first litter. And remember, his first litter will be on arduous, which means that it's going to be pretty difficult. So if he loses a puppy in his first litter, he may set himself on a pretty dangerous track of not being able to activate this ability at all. But if he does get all 4 puppies safely to the summer hunting grounds, it could be a very powerful ability. So that is Kanto for you. We'll go back, and that actually concludes the second litter, and we will now move on to the 3rd. So our first wolf is Lyla. Now, Lyla is a pretty small wolf. She's shy and quiet. She's very cautious, but she's also very thoughtful. And let's take a look at her as we do. You can see she has this coat, and it's pretty much in the middle, a little bit brown tinted. She is very, very fast, but not all that strong, and doesn't have that good a stamina. Let me play her howl. And as you can see, she actually has the flat ear. Now, Lyla doesn't have a lot of confidence. She's very, very timid, and because she's so skittish and timid, she can't actually mark territory in the typical means by urinating. She has to rely entirely on howling, which means that she will probably be howling quite a lot, and that is her only way of enforcing territory. So she'll either have to make sure she's howling quite a bit, or she'll have to just deal with the stranger wolves that come in. She's afraid to enforce her own territory, basically. But she is extremely caring to the point of being sacrificial. If one of her puppies dies to a predator, she can save it by throwing herself in the way. But doing this requires her to sustain severe injuries. It won't kill her. If she has more litters to complete, she can still come back. But we will have to go and play as Lyla's mate to finish off the rest of the litter because Lyla will be too injured to help with raising puppies. She can do this once per litter, no other terms and conditions. If a puppy dies, she can revive it by sacrificing herself, but we will then have to continue on as her mate for the remainder of that litter. So that is Lyla's ability. It's a little bit different, but it's because she is so caring. She does tend to be a very caring wolf. So let's move on from Lyla. We'll go back. I showed her coat, her abilities, and her body type. We'll go back and move on to her sibling, Rowan. Now, Rowan has a scar because he too was attacked by Stranger Wolf, but he also has the limpy leg. You can see that even here, he's holding that one leg up. Let's go ahead and get a closer look. So he does have the scarred coat, and because of his leg, he would have 85% speed, 30% stamina, and 35% strength, but he actually has 45% strength and 75% speed because of his limpy leg. And I'm just going to toggle out real fast because I want you to be able to see his leg. And if we go modify, he has his mom's howl, and that did nothing. So you can hear it's very similar to Katari's. He has a very similar coat to Katari's, but with a little bit more gray from his dad, and he actually has the limpy type, which that did nothing. But you can see he's holding that one leg up in the back, because when a stranger wolf came and attacked him, it actually grabbed him by the hind leg, and because of that, he never really recovered, and so he has a permanently injured leg that will alter his stats and make him limp when he runs. So, Rowan is pretty skittish too, a lot like Kaya. They had very similar experiences, and I feel like Kaya and Rowan are fairly close friends as well. I know Kaya and Ashy definitely were, but I feel like she was pretty close to Rowan too, as kind of his big sister. He worries a lot, but he's also pretty cautious. He fears the water too, because when they were crossing the river, Katari tried to bring him across, but she got stuck and she actually dropped him in the water because she had a hard time crossing and the current was too strong. They got him out of the water safely and he survived the experience, but he's very, very afraid of the water now, and he actually cannot bring puppies across the water. He can barely even get himself across without panicking, so he has to rely entirely on his mate to bring the puppies across the river crossing, which can either be very easy, as we saw in the first litter, or very difficult, as we saw in this most recent one, where Tarrell really didn't want to bring the first puppy across. So that is Rowan. But he also has a very good strength, which is that he is very cautious and doesn't take unnecessary risks. Because of that, he can actually drop the difficulty level. So instead of the standard progression, he will have 2 litters on pretty easy, 1 litter on challenging, and 1 on arduous, and never have to play on bring it on. So that's a pretty powerful ability too. So that is Rowan. You can see his scar, you can see his limpy leg. I'm going to go back and we will look at his sibling, his brother, Chaster. Now, Chaster's a little bit darker, takes after his dad, but has even more of a darker coloration. Still fairly light, but definitely has some more black mixed in, possibly from Tarrell's mother or father. So if we look at him, he has a darker coat, but it's still fairly light in terms of that specific coat. He has 40 strength, 50 stamina, 60 speed, so pretty balanced still, but a little bit more speed and stamina. And this is his howl. He's just the default one. And nothing really special going on with his body. Now, because of his darker coat color and his more secretive and reclusive personality, he must always play at night because he feels more comfortable when he can blend in with the shadows. Because as you can see, his dark coat would make him a lot more difficult to spot at night, but his strength is that he can always play on 1 difficulty easier, so he will have 2 litters on pretty easy, 1 on challenging, 1 on arduous, like his brother Rowan. So, but instead of the fearing the water, he has to play at night. Now, the downside to that is it's more difficult to see in general. If an eagle shows up, it's going to be a lot harder to see the shadow, and there tends to be more cougars at night. Upside to playing at night, you don't have ravens eating your carcasses. So that's Chaster for you. And let's go back and look at their final brother from this litter, Rio. Now, Rio is very, very adventurous. And if we look at him, he has a torn ear, so he had to run in with something or another. He has a little bit more strength, so he has 60 strength, 55 stamina, 35 speed, and this is his howl. So again, kind of like his mom, not quite, but similar, and he has a little bit more of a reddish coat, but still fairly light. Now, Rio is very, very adventurous, and he heard a lot of stories from his mom and dad about how they went hunting and took down a bull elk in Amethyst Mountain. Now, something about that appealed to Rio, and he wants to do that too. So he has to either hunt and take down, and he might even try to surpass it by not just taking down a bull elk, but by taking on a moose, specifically a cow moose. But if he killed a bull moose, he'd definitely complete his challenge as well. So he has to do it at least once in his lifetime. He can choose when, but his strength is that if he kills a moose or bull elk in Slough Creek during the winter, he can revive a puppy once that litter by reloading an autosave during, or a normal save during that litter. It doesn't stack though, so if he doesn't use his revival that litter, he loses it. He can only have one per litter, and in order to get it, he must kill a moose or a bull elk that winter before raising his puppies. However, there's no terms and conditions for the revival. It can be a pup that dies of starvation, it can be a pup that dies from a predator, it can be a pup that dies by drowning. He can still revive it as long as he's killed either a moose or a bull elk. So that is Rio, and that concludes Katari and Tarrell's third litter. Now we have two more puppies to go through because unfortunately only two of Katari and Tarrell's puppies in their fourth litter survived. And the first of them is Flare. Now Flare is a pretty small wolf. He has a normal body type, he has lowered strength, so only 30% strength, 55% stamina, and 65 speed. So he's definitely geared more towards the stamina and the speed. This is his howl. And you can see his coat is a lot more reddish, even though it's normally brown one. I think he actually has one of the, I think it might be the same coat as Katari, I'm not sure. But it's definitely a lot more reddish. Now, Flare is very, very skittish and fearful because his brother Hurricane was snatched by an eagle right next to him. So Flare is very, very scared of eagles, and he actually can't chase them off. So if an eagle attacks his puppies, Flare either has to stay close enough to them that the eagle flies away on its own, or if it lands, he's not allowed to chase it off normally. If it happens by accident, it happens by accident, but he can't intentionally go chase it off. In fact, he'd probably try and run away from it. But he can grab the puppy the eagle is after and run with it and try to get it away from the eagle. Now, that could mean we have eagles following us, which could be kind of interesting, but if he doesn't get there in time, the puppy will die because he can't save it if he can't chase off the eagle. And so if he can't grab the puppy will die. So kind of a bad flaw to have, but his strength is that he is a very quick learner and he's very observant. He can start on a backwards progression difficulty, so he can have his first litter on arduous, and then drop it to challenging, and then have two litters on pretty easy, but he has to remain at Aspen Heights if he wants to do that. And he'll have to deal with a more difficult journey. So again, he can kind of mix up the difficulty level and he can actually start backwards. So it could be a pretty good ability. But that is Flare for you, and you can see he's a lot more of a reddish colored wolf. Kind of has more of, probably from Katari's side, because Tarrell, I think, had more gray and white and black ancestors versus the more reddish ones are kind of from Katari. And oops, let's go back. And here we have Kiran, the final wolf pup that Katari and Tarrell had from their fourth and final litter. Now let's take a look at him. He has a lot like Chaster, a much darker coat, but still pretty light in terms of the black coats. And he's fairly balanced. He has 40 strength, 55 stamina, 55 speed. This is his howl. And he actually has a radio collar. So he and Ashy were both caught by researchers, probably not at the same time, and they have the radio collar on them. So the plane will come by every now and then as the researchers check on them. Now, Kiran is a very solemn and quiet wolf. Two of his siblings actually died. Flare is his only surviving brother. He lost his sister and one of his brothers. He tends to be kind of depressed sometimes, but he is extremely vicious and vengeful towards coyotes because his sister Rayra was killed by a coyote. So if a coyote shows up, he has to drop everything and kill it. Whether he's feeding puppies and they're about to starve, whether he's hunting and needs his own food, he has to drop whatever he's doing because he needs to kill that coyote. He is extremely vicious towards them, and even in Amethyst Mountain, he has to take out every coyote he sees. That's his challenge. But his strength is that he's very good at it. So if he loses a puppy to coyote, he can reload the most recent save or autosave once per litter to save the puppy. So he could prevent what happened to Rayra among his puppies if we play as him. So that is all of the wolves we have. So I'll just go through them again. We have Neo, or I'll try to get it so you can see your face and not just your back. We have Neo, we have Apollo, we have Ashy, we have Kanto, we have Rico, we have Lukon, who we can't actually choose in an heir, we have Rio, we have Rowan, Chaster, and that's one of my wolves, Kaya, and I'll let her, poor shy baby doesn't want to show her face. Aww. We have Kaya, so here we go, you can kind of see her face. She does look a lot like her mom, but more gray. Then you have Cassidy, Lyla, Katari herself, Flare, and Kiran. So that is the heirs you have to choose from and their strengths and weaknesses. You can find all these strengths and weaknesses in the Google document I have linked in the description of this video and in the description of the final episode of Season 1. And you can also find a link to a straw poll where you can vote for which wolf you would like to see us follow. And just because your favorite wolf doesn't get picked doesn't mean we'll never see them again, because we're going to be going through those live stream specials and we'll be covering one of their siblings, one of the heir siblings on each of those specials. So if you, whichever wolf you want to win, if you vote for them, there's a good chance we'll still follow their story for at least one litter in a live stream special. So don't forget to go vote. I'll be leaving voting up over the weekend. If we have enough votes by Monday, we'll pick up the series again in Season 2 then, but if not, we'll leave it be a little bit longer just to kind of accumulate some more votes. So make sure you get that in. You can read summaries of all these on the Google document, and that's about it. I will see you guys in Season 2, but until then, this is Jay, over and out. Don't forget to vote. I'll see you later.